pre-COVID and during COVID. So I've been here for a while. I am more concerned with the ethics and the morale of my board member. And I want to address Mr. Grohn because I do feel kind of like if you had a concern from May, end of May, we had a meeting in June, we had a major article in July, we have a board chair, we have a board vice chair, we have a policy committee member. I mean, I felt like there were ample ways that you could have maybe had this discussion with us as your peers before doing this article. I just want to express that. You're right as you're right. But I just want to say that because it was kind of like, wait, where is this coming from and what is this about? And then it's honestly just kind of been dragged along, of course, because it's an opinion article, then other people can respond to opinions, and those are fine too. I just think that when you look at board policy, ethics and duties of individual board members, and it talks about article in the one where the duties of individual board members, and it gives articles. So article 1 is my relation to the children, my relations to the community, my relations to teachers and personnel, and my relations with other board members. I draw concern to articles 2, my relation to my community, and articles 4, my relations with other board members, because granted, you may have been trying to do Article 2, Section 3, where you'll endeavor to keep the community informed about the progress and the needs of the schools, and I can see that, but I don't think you fairly and did your due diligence to educate them. That's one. That's a concern. I feel like you gave one side of the story without allowing something else to support that. You didn't fully inform them, I don't feel like. Just my opinion, just like you had an opinion. And then in Article 4, it talks about I will make decisions only after full discussion of matters at a board meeting. And so I don't think we just never came together as a group to talk about this. Like, you didn't bring it to us as your board. You didn't take it to the chair, from my understanding. I mean, it was just kind of like it went out there, and now here we are. Now you're talking to us about it, but I feel like the community already has an opinion developed about it because it went out that way before anybody was ever able to talk about it, support it with any type of documentation, to support it with any policy, to support it with any type of board member training, to hear from the administration, to hear all that. I mean, it was kind of already just put out there, and now the story is what it is. And so I don't like, and once again, I'm respectful of the fact that you had an opinion. We try to be respectful of each other's opinions. I just think it was in bad taste. I don't know another way to say it. I just think it was in bad taste to like put it out to the world, and then now you want to come back and talk to us about it.
Mr. Keene.
I'd like to talk, I guess, about the validity of some of the practices, so and maybe the longevity. So in 2008, I left a very enjoying and fulfilling job at Hunter Middle School as the principal to take over Hamilton County Adult High School, which actually was my project during Leadership Fellows program, which was in 1999. At that time, Dr. Scales was our superintendent, and him and I sat down when we had the meeting, and he told me that I was going to be the principal at the adult high school. And he shared some ideas about successful practices for this type of student that was coming in. And these were students that were unsuccessful at their previous schools for different reasons. The number one reason, they couldn't get to school. Attendance was probably 90% of the students' reason for not making it. Some were there because of discipline, and they had gone through Washington Alternative and then came to me after that. Some were court appointed to make sure that they had a possibility of doing something besides jail. And some were there for drug-related issues. And that was carried on from Dr. Scales to Dr. Smith to Dr. Kelly to Dr. Johnson. All 4 superintendents met, discussed with me, what are our strategies to help successfully get students that are unsuccessful to be successful. And one of those was a policy that I held in the school for all those years, and that was no grade below a 50. And the no grade below a 50, at that time again, grade was 70 for the F. No grade below a 50, teachers, and I had great teachers there. We had 8 teachers, and in those years, 3 of those 8 teachers were elected as the Hamilton County Teacher of the Year, 2 of them in social studies, 1 in math, and one of the social studies teachers became the director of social studies. But they had compassion, and the 50 was compassion. It allowed a kid to come in where he had not been successful, and still, even though, I don't know the way to say it, they had not changed their stripes yet, they were still not quite successful. But by the time they'd been with us for a year, the second semester, they were making grades in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Those students, that 50 was a saving grace for them. For some that didn't quite change, it allowed them to, in their second year, and most of the students that we had did not stay for 2 years. Most of them were one and done, or if they weren't successful, and especially if they didn't show up, I had the luxury, if they missed 9 days of school, I disenrolled them and they were done for a while. If they got into trouble, we don't use Washington School. We used the door and asked them to leave. So they had a little bit of life hitting them in the face, but if they did come back for a second year, they had the opportunity to go back through credit recovery because of the grade of a 50, still an F, but through, at first, and I'm going to say a term, I know Robert was around during this, we used to use a program called NovaNet that was the first online curriculum, and that was back in the early 2000s. And we eventually changed to Edgenuity, which was a much better program. And it took the students, even though, sometimes, and we made them do the online classes in class with a tutoring monitor, even during planning times and stuff. But teachers were willing to do that. And they became successful because of that. So the 50 was never looked at as a gimme. It was looked at as a little bit of compassion. So, and that's not to say myself, my school counselor, we did a lot of work. Once the teachers gave that 50, it was not their job to bring that grade up. That fell on myself as the administrator and my guidance counselor, and between the two of us, we stayed on students, making sure, that they would make those grades. I don't know, COVID brought some things we'd never faced before, but compassion again was thought of as the reason, and I think during that time some things were done out of compassion to help kids because of the amount of learning loss. Now, do we need to change that? We can have those conversations, but I am just going to let you know that there has been procedures, not policies, but procedures that have been around for the 17 years that I was a high school administrator. So it's not something that just came about. It's been there through, I know, 4 administrators before Dr. Robertson, and all of them aware that this was a process to help certain students to be successful.
Okay, everyone has their box lit up, and rightfully so. I'm really tempted to like terminate this conversation though, because I don't know what we're gonna accomplish here, and it's 7:22, and I'm just being real with you guys, okay? I know everyone's really passionate about this topic, and specifically about the fact that there was an article in the Chattanoogan by one of our board members, and it riled a lot of people up. I get that. But I'm just going to terminate this conversation. I don't think that it gets us anywhere. I think that if you have specific comments for Mr. Grohn, I think you should talk to him about it directly. I don't think that this is the platform and where we need to have that. Dr. Robertson, your memo, thank you.
I would like to respond.
I understand. Let me finish my comments,
Yes,
please. And I'm not sure that your response is productive either. I would say talking directly to each other would be more productive. If you have something to talk about regarding the policy or the procedure, let's talk about that versus necessarily how people feel about the situation. If we want to set a date to discuss this topic, I think we do that.
I need to make a point known.
I understand.
I need to make a point known.
I understand. I just don't think it's a productive forum. Like we're not getting anywhere with policy or procedure right now. So, and as chair, I have the right to shut down a conversation. So, if we want to set a date for a work session, that's what Dr. Robertson has suggested, and I think that that's the forum where we talk more productively about the process, the procedure. We can set that. You've said that you'll do that, so I assume that you'll email us about that. Okay, Mrs. Ford, that'd be great. Okay. Mr. Grohn, if there's something that we need to know in regards to the process or procedure, happy to let you make that comment.
Madam Chair, I first sent you, were copied on an email of May 18th, bringing this topic up. I never have gotten a response from any of the emails that I've sent you on this issue. But I want to make it known that I have been in conversations for weeks with Dr. Robinson. And because I didn't get answers on this is why.
From him, correctly?
Yes.
Correct? Is that what you mean? Yeah.
So the only document I ever received was the one I shared. And I shared everything with all the school board members on Tuesday of this week. So, I did contact our board chair on May 18th. Thank you.
I don't believe there was a request on May 18th to bring this before the board in that email. So I do want to point that out for the rest of the board to understand that it was not requested that I bring it before you. I think that Mr. Grohn, though, as a closing statement and a closing comment in regards to your comments, I think that the issue here that we have, though, is that you took a board matter publicly instead of bringing it to the board. That's one issue. There is an ethics violation also in our ethics policy. But also, you also violated Dr. Robertson's contract by, putting in writing and putting it in a news outlet, like your opinion on a matter that frankly is not policy. Like it's a procedural matter. And then I'm gonna be also honest, you also called out other employees, including Dr. Stewart, and she doesn't deserve that. But also she's an employee of the system and she's not your employee. The board has one employee and that's Dr. Robertson. And so there are a number of areas where you put this board in jeopardy by doing what you did. And I think that there are a number of people on this board that feel that way. And rather than letting us just belabor the topic, you may have sent something to us after the fact, but not before. And I think that that's another area where, if it was a real issue, you should have sent it to the entire board before and asked that it be discussed. So.
I think he did say that.
He did not. If you got something that we didn't, we'd love to know when.
If he
send it to the board? He just told you that he sent all the
On
information.
Tuesday.
On Tuesday, the
went out
article was
July
last
10th.
week.
The article went out July 10th, and it's been ongoing
Well,
ever since.
Okay, I will just say something myself, as being a board member who has taken on many superintendents for many things. Not everything that I disagreed with the superintendent on was a policy matter. There were lots of procedures that I had lots of problems with, but never has anybody said they were going to get you for ethics for questioning a superintendent. I think that is just crazy. I mean, you do what you want to, but that is nuts.
Well, I don't think she said
Yeah, I
they
didn't
were
say
going to
that.
get them
You
for
know I
ethics.
didn't
She
say
just
that.
said it
Okay, all
violated.
right, we're going to dismiss. Thank you so much.
I'm a grown woman, I'll send it to her, please.
Let's choose you out and not let you even retaliate. That's wrong.